Something extraordinary was recently uncovered, a well-known letter detailing Pilate's account of Jesus' life and trial. This discovery has sparked immense interest, providing fresh insight into one of the most significant figures in history, Jesus Christ. But before we dive into the contents of this letter, let's take a moment to consider how faith plays a role in interpreting these stories. Over the centuries, many have sought to understand Jesus' life and the events surrounding his crucifixion. Some of the most well-known sources are the Gospels in the Bible. However, there are other writings, such as the Gospel of Nicodemus, which is also known as the Acts of Pilate. These writings offer different perspectives and details about Jesus' trial and Pilate's role. Though not part of the Bible, they played an important role in shaping medieval thought and understanding of the events surrounding Jesus' death. The Gospel of Nicodemus, believed to have been written a few centuries after Jesus' resurrection, is divided into two parts. The first part narrates Jesus' passion and Pilate's role in investigating the accusations against him. Pilate, after hearing the evidence, ultimately orders Jesus' execution. Despite learning that Jesus hadn't risen from the dead at that point, Pilate receives proof regarding the events surrounding Jesus' death and the implications that follow. The second part of the Gospel is presented as a dialogue between two individuals who were supposedly raised from the dead when Jesus was resurrected. These two characters discuss what they experienced in the afterlife and how Jesus played a crucial role in freeing souls that were trapped there. This unique portrayal of Jesus' actions in the afterlife sheds light on medieval beliefs about the nature of hell and salvation. However, the authenticity of this gospel is widely debated. While some people may believe in it, especially if they prioritize faith over historical evidence, there is no strong proof that it is a reliable historical source. The fact that it was written 3 centuries after Jesus' resurrection raises questions about its accuracy. The claim that Pilate converted to Christianity is also unsubstantiated, as it is not mentioned in the Bible or any other early Christian writings. Nevertheless, this gospel had a significant impact on medieval thought, particularly in shaping the belief that Jesus descended into hell to free the souls trapped there. While the Gospel of Nicodemus may not be a reliable source of history, it does provide an interesting narrative about Jesus and Pilate's interactions. The traditional view of Pilate in Christian history is that he did not want to sentence Jesus to death, but recent discoveries suggest that his role might have been more complex than previously thought. Pilate is often portrayed as a harsh and cruel ruler, but some accounts offer a more nuanced picture. When Jesus was arrested, he was brought before Pilate, who was the Roman governor of Judea at the time. There was significant unrest, as many people believed it was illegal to kill Jesus. Pilate, after hearing about Jesus' claim to be the Messiah and a potential rival to Caesar, questioned him directly. This moment is pivotal in understanding the dynamic between Pilate and Jesus. Many religious leaders brought Jesus to Pilate in the hopes that he would issue a lenient judgment. Pilate's reputation as a cruel and unsympathetic leader is well known in history. Some scholars suggest that his harsh rule was due to his insecurities, as he was married to Caesar's granddaughter and needed to prove his loyalty to Rome. This insecurity may have driven his decisions to punish people without due cause, including Jesus. At first, there were no clear charges against Jesus, but the religious leaders found a reason to accuse him, claiming that he was misleading the people and refusing to pay taxes to Caesar. These charges were designed to position Jesus as a threat to Roman authority, thus forcing Pilate to take action. The leaders demanded Jesus' death, and they insisted on crucifixion, which was the most humiliating and painful form of execution at the time. Because Jesus was from Galilee, Pilate tried to shift responsibility by sending him to Herod, the ruler of that region. However, Herod did not find any reason to punish Jesus and sent him back to Pilate. Pilate, surprised by Jesus' calm and composed demeanor, began to question why the religious leaders were so eager to have him killed. Jesus' peaceful nature stood in stark contrast to the image of a rebellious leader that the religious authorities had painted of him. If you find this content insightful and would like to support our work, consider using the Super Thanks feature below. Your support helps us continue sharing the profound story of Jesus and his journey. As Pilate continued to observe Jesus and listen to the charges brought against him, he became increasingly skeptical. Something about the situation did not seem right to him, and he wanted to investigate further. Pilate, like many others who encountered Jesus, was struck by the man's extraordinary presence. Even today, many people find it hard to believe the miracles Jesus performed, healing the blind, casting out demons, and raising people from the dead. Jesus' teachings were powerful and inspiring, drawing countless followers. He came to earth with a mission to save humanity, and his message of love, compassion, and forgiveness resonated with many. During his questioning of Jesus, Pilate was taken aback by Jesus' response when he said that his kingdom was not of this world. This statement confused Pilate, who, like many, believed that a kingdom's power was demonstrated through its military might. Rome, at the time, was the most powerful empire in the world, with a strong army. Jesus, on the other hand, had no army, and yet he believed his kingdom was more powerful than Rome's. Pilate, after considering the evidence and listening to Jesus' words, declared that he had found no wrongdoing in Jesus. In his eyes, Jesus was innocent of the charges brought against him. However, the crowd, spurred on by the religious leaders, demanded that Jesus be punished. To appease the crowd, Pilate ordered Jesus to be flogged. Even though Pilate knew that Jesus was innocent, he hoped that this act of violence would satisfy the people and prevent further unrest. Unfortunately, the situation escalated. The crowd continued to demand Jesus'. Pilate is often viewed as the villain in this story, but upon closer examination, his role becomes more complex. Some might argue that Pilate could have done more to save Jesus, but it is also clear that the real villains were the religious leaders who orchestrated the events that led to Jesus' death. Their jealousy and fear of Jesus' growing influence drove them to manipulate the situation, ensuring that Jesus would be crucified. Pilate's fear grew when Jesus revealed that he was the Son of God. This revelation shook Pilate to his core. He had never encountered anyone like Jesus before, and despite his position of power, he felt powerless in that moment. Pilate, though capable of freeing Jesus, chose to bow to the will of the crowd. In doing so, he allowed an innocent man to be condemned. This raises the question of whether Pilate was truly in control of the trial. In many ways, it seems as though Jesus was the one in control. Pilate was tested during this trial, and while he had the opportunity to make the right decision, he ultimately failed the test. Pilate's decision to sentence Jesus to death, despite his reservations, demonstrates the power of fear and public pressure. Without concrete evidence, Pilate allowed the crowd to dictate the outcome of the trial. Roman customs required that those sentenced to death by crucifixion carry their own cross to the place of execution. Jesus, like many others before him, was forced to carry his cross through the streets, enduring unimaginable pain and suffering along the way. The Romans wanted to make an example of Jesus. By forcing him to carry his cross, they sought to humiliate him and discourage any potential followers from challenging Roman authority. The physical toll on Jesus was immense, as he was beaten and whipped throughout the journey. Despite the intense pain, Jesus remained strong and continued to carry his cross to the place of his execution. Archaeological evidence supports the existence of crucifixions during this time, and the methods used were similar to those described in the Gospels. The practice of crucifixion was reserved for the worst criminals, and it was designed to be as painful and humiliating as possible. Jesus' crucifixion followed this pattern, with the added weight of his innocence making it all the more tragic. Pilate's reputation for punishing people without proper trials eventually caught up with him. His harsh and unfair methods led to his downfall, and he was eventually called back to Rome to face consequences for his actions. Despite his role in Jesus' death, Pilate's legacy remains one of controversy and debate. As for Jesus, his crucifixion marked the culmination of his earthly ministry. The Bible describes the moment of his death as a profound and supernatural event. According to the Gospel of Matthew, darkness covered the land from noon until evening, an event that many believe was a sign of God's intervention. Some accounts even describe stars appearing in the sky, making it seem as though night had fallen in the middle of the day. If you've made it this far, you might want to consider using the Super Thanks button below to show your support. Your contribution helps us continue to share stories like these.